express yourself sexually normally, it drives you fucking insane. So it racks up the bill on the more auditing that you need.
But back in my day, Doug, back in the 70s,
it's a lot looser.
No, I never saw that, and masturbation was never a thing.
Really?
There was still lots. Yeah, there was lots of free love, and hey, I got seduced on flag by one of the Commodore's messengers, and that ended me up getting.
That's very bad.
Hubbard found out about that, and in the middle of the night, I got shaken out of my bunk bed and told to go up into the crow's nest on the boat while we were in like 30 and 40-foot waves. Dude, and I'm up in the crow's nest on top. It was very
all night, dude, with 30 to 40-foot waves. And he's got a picture of it. And I'm going to flash up pictures on this. That dude, when I was reading your story, like that shocked me because I was just picturing myself in your position in that crow's nest with, I mean, dude, 30 or 40-foot waves is very, very scary to be in. Did you think you were gonna die that night? Seriously, or that you were gonna fall off? Or
I was more
scared
of falling off. And yes, no, it was a terrifying night.
That sounds scary.
But you know what? But I didn't mind it at the time,
like in the Navy,
because I deserved it in my mind because I had committed what was an overt with this Commodore's messenger. And having sex in her cabin. You see, the messengers had cabins. I was in a bunk with maybe 9 or 12 others, students from around the world that were there. And we would just literally, we woke up, we went to bed, and that was it. There was nothing going on there. But so that was an exciting. And
so how did you even
to get the attention of Hubbard like that?
How did you even get laid on there?
I don't know. Probably, in her cabin. She took me to her cabin
with like 9 other people. Because
during a party, well, there was a no, 9 other people. No, just by herself. No.
Well, I know what you're talking about. I went on the free ones, Brian.
During a party that was going on.
People on there. Okay, when everybody was at the party. Wow, dude, that took some planning because I know what it's like. I was never in the Sea Org.
No. Well, I didn't plan it.
The free ones alone.
I did not plan it. No, the messengers had what they wanted. And I had nothing to do with the planning of it. I never could have put that all together. And I am the victim in all this. The happy,
Brian, I'm getting a little bit of a fall on that.
I do not complain. Yes.
Man,
my needle is floating. Oh, wait, that's not my needle. That's my... No, it's
Brian,
not.
I told you, no cursing or no sexual innuendos. I'm going to have to bleep all this out. YouTube algorithm picks all this shit up. No, I'm totally joking.
Oh, really?
Dude, this is
it's in Spanish, so I don't think they'll pick it up.
My man.
No, go ahead.
I think we covered the broad strokes of like how you got into Scientology and some of the stories. I know there's a million more. Please, listeners, check out the book. It's fantastic. And another thing that I want to say about that book, if you don't mind, it's very concise, very easy to read. You're not trying to be like a lot of authors using all this complex words and going into it's just perfect, dude. The way you wrote the text and those, as they would say in Scientology, impinging artwork. It's awesome.
220 illustrations. I had really checked out some illustrated books in one of the bookstores, and I found them fascinating. You know, and to be truthful, I feel that the Scientology illustrated book, the Dianetics illustrated books, are probably the best books to really simply see the bullshit that they present. And again, and some of it is based on some good stuff that has been stolen from some really great places and renamed, and understand that.
So go to those other
but
places.
I've always
don't
liked
waste your time on Scientology.
Yeah, well, you see, the real problem to me, Doug, with Scientology, besides that it controls your life, besides that it breaks up families, besides that it does different types of crimes and should not be tax exempt and uses things for different purposes. And, you know, so much would change if they became taxable. and had to face the laws of the areas so that staff members at least got minimum wage. I mean, they don't even get close to that. But the real problem is the intention is to steep you so deeply into the hallucinations that are very disassociative, very manic, of talking to these body thetans that they say are stuck around you, to get in conversations and go through this ridiculous format. It is hypnosis. It is the most intense time. The more you do the OT levels, they are the most hypnotic of all, because Hubbard teaches you to hypnotize yourself. And my biggest problem is that everything leads to that. And because of that, they put you in debt, all the money that they can get you to borrow. They care only about your stats as a student, or as receiving auditing, or working for them, or distributing and doing whatever it is that they tell you to do. And it's that type of evil and control, these ideas of, as you've brought up before, of the 75 million years ago and being dropped in a volcano. And there's so many others, read the history of man, because that's where I think the disassociative aspect of Hubbard's complete ego fell apart. And I show it in my book with the illustration of him as Humpty Dumpty, sitting on the wall of fraud and illusion and lies and Satan and all this type thing. And I show that when he all of a sudden went through the things he did, being charged with practicing medicine without a license, losing the ownership of Dianetics, his whole life fell apart. He just made millions and millions of dollars with his bullshit book on Dianetics, the modern hallucinatory science of L. Ron Hubbard's mind. And but he was successful, but he didn't stop. And if he listened to the universe, when he lost the name of Dianetics in the book, and he was not making all that money anymore, and I guess going through all sorts of drug use and sexual cheating on his wife and adultery and all sorts of other cool things. I mean, cool guy.
Yeah,
I'd see, if that was all there and truthful about it, I'd say, gee, just like many of my friends.
Right.
But they don't ask me to sit there and tell me that they're the savior and they're at the coming of Buddha, and I need to work my whole life. No, we sit around and joke about it. We laugh about it. We have a drink about it and just think how silly it is.
And Hubbard,
I wouldn't have minded that.
And they also wouldn't tell you that your daughter and you can't see your grandchildren and all that stuff because you don't agree with every single word that L. Ron Hubbard said.
Forget about that.
Forget about that, Brian,
if I would have just known that.
So you got out of Scientology, man. You said fuck it one day. You were out for like 30 years. I read in your book, you did everything you could to keep the relationship. You didn't have a
35 years.
35 years. And then pick it up, Brian, from when you actually found out.
And I never had read anything about Hubbard.
Right.
I never read anything about. I had no interest in it. I had created my own life. I have a great life. I've been very successful. I've traveled around the world. I've studied and created the first school of complementary and alternative medicine in the country that was able to give diplomas for it. I got certified by the state of Florida to do that. I've written books on epigenetics, and I love the power of the mind. No, you can't do all these wild OT things. No. And I do understand that there are different types of places and religions and spiritual paths that tell you that. To me, I've simplified life.
Right.
I've said, to me, one thing, Doug, I learned through everything. And that is, all I want is peace. If I have peace, I have everything else. That's it.
Well, that's the grand spiritual journey. That is the question, my man.
Right.
It sounds so simple too, right? That's what we got.
Yeah,
in
it is.
Scientology
And I don't
for.
look for Superman abilities and
Exactly.
manifestation of universes. And I have some pretty wild ideas. I created the science of quantum embodiment based upon studying quantum physics, quantum connections. It's about understanding things that the mind can do and how it reconnects into the genes and produces different type of amino acids and neuropeptides, and to understand the actual science and the neuroscience and the creating of different types of synaptic connections in the brain and the movements. I mean, they kind of blew my mind. And because of where I was, I got lit and said, this is the rest of my life. Until this 6 years ago, and over again, until this. And the heartbreak and not knowing your grandson is of not being there. You know, Father's Day, I couldn't even turn on. I like to read Tony Ortega's Underground Bunker regularly. I couldn't even turn it on Father's Day this year. I wanted to write of how my heart was breaking. And I couldn't turn it on because I would have written something about it. And I know there's so many others on there that are brokenhearted like I am. I'm not the only one. That's the spooky part, Doug. There's tens of thousands of us.
I know, man.
Tens of thousands.
Isn't that crazy, Brian? That
are not permitted to talk to their child.
Yeah. So wild, man.
It is. And what really is crazy is, and it's supported with our tax dollars because we have them, because they're tax exempt for the criminal things they do. That's what really blows my mind is that everybody out there listening and everybody in America is financially supporting this type of criminal activity.
And they're not the only offenders. That's why I say we live in a crazy, inverted, fucked up world that tolerates this kind of obvious hoax and insanity right in front of your eyes. I mean, you mean we're living in
Bizarro? Do you know Bizarro, Doug? You don't know Bizarro?
What's Bizarro?
Oh, you should check out the old comic books. No,
I don't know.
No. Bizarro. Check it out. I promise you. It's the exact alternate opposite universe of Superman. So it's a Superman in an upside down world. And it was very popular, at least when I was a kid. And it's hysterical because it kind of shows you here all these superpowers done for bad and evil. And it's just bizarre. Oh.
You know what movie reminds me of the world we're living in? You ever see that movie Idiocracy, where everybody's so stupid and retarded? You haven't seen Idiocracy? You got to check that out.
No, I have. Oh,
you? No,
I have. A long time ago. I have.
Do you remember?
I just remember it was hysterical and on point. And
like
I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies.
I remember
that. You're like,
I
that
vaguely
would never happen.
Seeing it.
Yeah.
Hi. I was in an army experiment, and I'm not feeling so well. I think it might have been the drugs they had me on. I've been hallucinating. My head is just killing me. My joints are all achy, and Is this a hospital, or... I don't even know where I am.
Please proceed to the diagnostic area on the right, and have a healthy day.
Oh. Thanks.
Thank you!
Oh, is someone not feeling well? Your illness is very important to us.
Next.
Welcome to the Health Master Inferno, powered by Cure Me Technology.
This goes in your mouth. This one goes in your ear. And this one goes in your butt.
Come on. Hurry up, asshole! Come on.
Shit, hang on a second. This one. This one goes in your mouth.
Come on!
You know, the COVID pandemic and what's going on right now, You know what, Doug?
Don't say
truth
too much
is-
about that, because they will censor it on YouTube, because you have to have one
Okay.
narrative.
No,
So keep
all I will
keep
say
it
is
clean,
this.
young man.
Okay.
That's
yes.
that's YouTube
These
talking, not me,
scenarios
dude.
that we're experiencing today. Okay, I know. That's cool.
Yeah, I know you.
The scenarios we're experiencing today in the world have been written about by some of the best writers as fiction. And, you know, some of my favorite writers like Dan Brown and others, these guys fictionally have written about how something like this could happen and would happen. And it's quite intriguing. So, and to me, it's not surprising at all. Just a question of what it will happen again, and the intention of creating what is being created has been there for an awfully long time. And this is just another step in that direction. And I'll just leave it at that. You know, I think human consciousness in general is very divisive. It's built. Okay. I used to always love in Scientology one thing, and it really, and I actually wrote a song about it with Mike Garson. And that was that the nature of man is basically good.
Mm-hmm.
The
Unless you're a
nature of
psychopath.
man is basically good.
I agree.
Yeah,
with that.
but that's, I'm trying to remember what particular my philosophy or something else that was written in. I don't remember exactly, but I always would love to have believed that. And again, I wrote a song with Mike Garson on it called "The Nature of Man is Basically Good." And then you see that the person who's saying that is so divisive and manipulative and such a compulsive fraud and liar, and does with the intention of controlling others and have them become his slave. I love that his affirmations that were written about.
Yeah, there are no
you know,
snakes under your
and I
bed.
put that again in another one of my.
What's your favorite one?
And so, you know, but the bottom line is the nature of the ego mind is basically bad.
Yeah, I agree.
And evil. And that's the nature of controlling others because of the fear that's inside them and the misunderstanding of who they are and what life is about. And you can manipulate people just like the hypnotism, the mind control of Scientology. So as even these wonderful people of celebrities and VIPs and my daughter and her family, you know, can be so brought into a state of mind as to forget about the simplest things of life, of compassion and rapport and empathy and caring and loving and loyalty to family, which
wild,
is
man?
so important. You know,
Brian,
it's, you know, because they say that and it's just the opposite.
Exactly. Everything's the opposite in Scientology. That's why it's, you know, it's, I mean, I'm not like a religious person or whatever. I would say I accidentally became spiritual by deprogramming. It wasn't something I was looking for, but Scientology is basically a satanic cult or run by a psychopath because everything's inverted. So when he tells you that you're there to go totally free, you're actually going into amnesia. You're forgetting who you are. You're having your self-identity replaced with his. And so the road back, you know, you said some really powerful shit, man. And
that's what's so scary.
Yeah, I know, dude. When we may have had, everybody's journey out is different. I can relate to a lot of stuff you said, particularly when, I mean, again, some people come out and they become an atheist. Some people come out and they join another cult. It's just like everything's open. But for me, my man, he so stole my core identity. He so got into my soul, like really deep down, that the way out actually took me further than if I had never entered Scientology to begin with, because I felt like he took my soul, dude. And when I'm even like,
how many years you were in BC? You were more involved, and you got involved at a young age when you were even more open and more subject to molding of your mind.
That's what's so
and at least
evil.
I had some sense of it. Yeah.
That's the thing, Brian. When
but
you're
you
second
don't think your
generation,
parents' intention, but your
not.
parents' intentions weren't evil.
They're not evil.
Yeah,
That's
they
what's
wanted
so
to
fucked up
improve
about it.
themselves and thought they were helping you.
They
I
still
know that's
do.
what the thing is, because the good intentions and they're so hypnotized and so brainwashed that but that, I'm sorry to say, is the nature of our world, Doug.
I know, bro. What are we
Let
gonna
me
do
put
about
on
it,
a
bro?
light here because I see my color fading in here.
Yeah, sure.
Hold on just 1 second. There's a light bulb above me. Hold on.
Yeah. Wow. This guy's blowing my mind.
Well, that's not going to happen because I cannot find any light switch anywhere where I am.
I can still see
we
you,
never
Brian.
envisioned
Like
doing night stuff. Good. Okay.
You've been pixelating in and out,
come a
but
little
it's
bit
gonna work just
closer.
fine. Okay. Yeah, man. Hey, Brian, I wanted to ask you, like, since we haven't covered this yet, if it's too much, dude, I mean, please just say, hey, whatever. I don't want to talk about that. But you
Please.
were out for 35 years.
Go for it.
You kept your mouth shut about Scientology. And then was it finding out about that Hubbard was a fraud all these years later that got you into trouble? Or what caused the church to suddenly make you a target when before they didn't really have a problem with you because you were sort of, keeping your mouth shut like a good boy?
Yeah, and well,
Or
it
you didn't have
wasn't
a
so much
problem with it.
keeping
Or you
my
didn't
mouth
have a-
shut
you
like
didn't
a
have a
good
problem
boy.
with it, right?
I had no problem. I didn't know
Right.
he was a fraud. I didn't know that they were breaking family apart at the level that they were doing. And I didn't know, it's something I actually started to talk about earlier, but kind of in all of my tangent talking went away from it. I didn't know that David Miscavige had not only this bloodthirsty means of control and creating the whole and unbelievable levels of pain and suffering on his staff. I didn't know he had opened up and basically created donations and levels of donations for people to then get literally certifications, medals, trophies, acknowledgments for donating large sums of money that had nothing to do with auditing or training. And that so completely perverted the whole system there. It's por favor. That so perverted the whole system. It allowed the mismanagement of so many billions of dollars and the ego grandification like Grant Cardone and so many others.
Oh God, that guy's disgusting.
To be all about money.
All about money. That guy's
loose,
the worst, dude.
Loose.
Brian, are you having an LSD flashback?
Posible un luz. I'm going to try and get a little light behind me.
All right.
So so that really bothers me because that was something never existed. If there was any integrity at all, no. Okay. Gracias. If Hubbard was stubborn about one thing, it was that about exchange and the exchange. And even though he was insane, he believed in his training and he wanted you to get trained to help other people. At least that's how I bought it. And to then go to this level of now getting these rich, very rich whales get into these competitions for awards and trophies and freedom medals that he gives to, oh my God. I mean, gives to lovers of the nation of Islam. Are you kidding me?
Man.
Okay, an anti-Semitic group like that, or to or child abuse. I mean, Tom Cruise is a child abuser, man. I mean, to not see his daughter all these years is child abuse by definition, by the way. You go and check any psychology dictionary and say, shit, Scientology got their own dictionary. Psychology's got their own dictionary. And it says neglecting and abandoning your child is child abuse. And yet he gets the top award in Scientology for being the top person in all of Scientology. And he's a child abuser. And let's just leave it at that.
Well said, man. I have
pretty crazy, huh?
Again, that's another example of the inversion. You think you're getting in. I mean, Brian, you were a freaking hippie, man. You thought you were going to get spiritual freedom. And another thing, Brian, is that right when you look at that grade chart like you were talking about, and they have all the levels, and each one says this is the exact ability gain. It's all promise, and it's so complex, and there's so many books. And you see Hubbard, there's so much, as they would say, messed. This is what tripped me up, Brian. I figured this out like years later. There's so much there that it would be impossible that it would be fake, that it would be a con. There's too much knowledge. It's too laid out. There's too many buildings. There's too much money.
But you see, that's one of the
things. It's totally empty, though, is what I'm saying, Brian. Like when you get all the way up to OTA and you think you're going to have these superpowers and blah, blah, blah. Going back to what you said earlier, it's all about, well, I probably should have just stopped at the communication course. Bro, it's empty. It doesn't deliver what it's promised. It will take your soul. It will take your soul, not get you in touch with it. That's what happened to me. It's not the same experience for everybody, but I think the longer you stay in, especially nowadays, like you said, with Ms. Cabbage at the helm, you're gonna come out without finally realizing that this is bullshit. It cannot deliver this spiritual freedom. And then not only that, you might lose your family, your friends. You're going to certainly have to redefine your self-identity and everything that goes with it. So it's a trap, man. It's like bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. And, some people
and don't take Doug's opinion of it. Yeah.
But I wouldn't recommend going down and checking it out for yourself. I do warn people away from even stepping foot in that organization.
For someone, but for someone who might be listening to you and me, Doug, and thinking we got our own axes to grind,
right?
Okay,
which
and maybe we're the apostate that are just sitting there and trying to badmouth them. Here's a real suggestion. Mm-hmm. I suggest if you doubt any of the things we're saying, buy the book, and I'm sure you can buy it in used bookstores around the world. If not, order it.
Dianetics.
Read the book, History of Man.
Oh, perfect.
And if you read that book where he says that he has completely, in a matter of what is approximately 6 weeks' time, reviewed 76 trillion years of the history of the universe in these 6 weeks while running his life and doing all the things he was doing. If you read this crazy hallucinatory bullshit, okay, which, hey, I've had lots of wild LSD trips, man. Okay. And I can understand History of Man as these kind of hallucinations. Okay. But if you're telling me that it's the only way of going through these memories that he implants in your mind, okay, if you think that's real and helpful, then become a Scientologist.
That's
because
perfect.
You'll get a lot more of it.
Dianetics is full of hypnosis.
But start there. Don't read Dianetics, because
exactly.
Dianetics book can make you think that it can work. And let me tell you, all the stuff on the attempted abortions that he talks about in Dianetics, the modern hallucinatory science of mental derangement. Understand, there were a few years before Hubbard wrote Dianetics, there was a somatic psychologist who was doing work and proposed these ideas. The engram and everything else about attempted abortions, none of that is original work. It was work that was being published at the time by researchers who didn't say all of the grand possibilities that this work can do, but all of this stuff was being already presented. Even the word Scientology existed at the time.
Right.
He stole that as well.
1909, I think.
But just understand, okay, German guy.
Mm-hmm. Brian, not only that, but those attempted
So
abortions.
that's what I say to a person. Read that book.
According to Nibs, those attempted abortions were part of his black magic rituals, and he was actually doing that on his own daughter. I don't know if they covered that in Going Clear or not, but you know that History of Man book? You know that History of Man book? Nibs, who went under Ronald DeWolf, who has since passed away and was talking about his father, that was his drug trip, and Nibs was spouting this shit. And that's what they wrote down as the History of Man. That's why that book is so insane. And I think that's the perfect advice on, because I would just say to somebody, stay the fuck away from it. Don't take the personality test. It's a setup. You don't want to go into the trance. Just stay the fuck away and look elsewhere for much better material. But I think an even better thing is what you just said, dude. Don't do Dianetics. It's a piece of shit, but it can still snag you and it could make some sense. So go read History of Man. That's perfect advice. And Brian, as we wind down here, I wanted to ask you where you where you stand with trying to recover your daughter. I'm never going to see my freaking family again, dude. And they would have to come out of the program and recognize what they did. Otherwise they're too toxic. I wouldn't even let them back in my life, bro. So I don't think that's going to happen. My parents are in their 70s and they're probably not going to wake up. Right. But you have a chance here. What do you think is going to happen if you had to guess? And where do you stand on being able to maybe one day reconnect? How do you feel about that, if you don't mind me asking?
No, please ask. I wrote the book for my daughter. Relentless Rescuing My Daughter from Scientology was written for her and my grandson, Leo, who's now 4, who I haven't met. And I sent her a copy of the book. I sent her mother a copy of the book. Her mother is very involved in all of this and they enable each other because all their friendships and their whole life, if they would leave, she would have to probably leave. Well, she would definitely leave her husband because they're a big VIP Scientology family. So I sent her the book.
Really?
I'm sure there must be some people that she gets involved with that may have watched some of my whiteboard videos or seen my book published or my podcast that I did with Leah Remedy or many of the other things that have happened here and there. I think that she probably knows a little bit about what I've been doing. And I believe that something is going to happen. I can't tell you when. That's going to create an out ethics situation. And she will be placed in a situation of, I hate to say this, divorcing her husband and he having to divorce her for whatever reasons. Maybe one or the other of them do an out ethics thing. But you see, once she loses the financial wherewithal that her husband gives her, because he's from a very wealthy family, she's nothing to Scientology.
Yep.
She's only something to Scientology because of the money that could be paid. And I think that's why this came up 35 years later, that they were probably pre-regging her for the OT levels and needed to take another look at my background, which they had done 20 years earlier. And at first tried to push me away. And then she got corrected and everything was okay. So she can join the Sea Org when she turned 18. So I think something is going to happen in ethics, and whether it happens because some shit really hits the fan and David Miscavige and the Church of Scientology pays it in a very big way that makes it undeniable for any reasonable person not to at least look at the accusation of why the Department of Justice has done these things. You know, we forget that L. Ron Hubbard's wife went to jail. Okay, that they invaded 110 government agencies. That this is an organization with a lot of bad shit, I'm sure, buried underneath all of their attorneys' files, which they use, attorneys and private investigators. So I think something's going to go wrong, and she's going to, I don't know, either get pushed away as potential trouble source something of that nature happening. So that's my vision, that I will eventually see her. I do intend, as things change, when I find myself back in the US again, I hope to end up in California. And one way or another, if I have to sneak to see my grandson and to see my daughter, even if from a bit of a distance. But I hope to at least go up and give my grandson a hug. I'm intending to do that. Right now, he doesn't understand the idea, but soon he'll be old enough. And when he's old enough, a random 10-second, 20-second hug. Hi, I'm your grandfather. Okay. You want to put me in jail for that? I guess maybe she can try. I'll joyfully allow that to come out. But other than that, I have to just keep a vision of her in my heart, of my love for her, of the love for my grandson that I haven't met. As I said, all I want is peace. And if this is her decision, rightfully or wrongfully, hypnotically or not, I know the power of the hypnosis, because I didn't know I had been hypnotized for 35 years until this happened. And it woke me up. Seeing, going clear, woke me up. I couldn't believe it. I blew my mind.
Me too.
Reading the book, starting to get involved with understanding, I couldn't believe it. And I have gratitude for that happening. And I hate the way that it happened, but I have gratitude also that it took away all of this, how I held L. Ron Hubbard in my mind.
Yeah.
I was basically his PR that he'd given me.
Yeah.
And so I have gratitude that I have helped thousands of people through my whiteboard videos, through my book now, through podcasts. Listen to this. If you know anyone getting involved in Scientology or is just in the stages of it, have them listen to Doug's podcast, read my book, many other books, read Tony Ortega's blog, and there's so many other things, and listen to the podcast of Leah Remedy and Mike Rinder, and there's so many things you can do. But, remember, if you have the knowledge, you can make a choice, and make the choice that's right for you. And I'll kind of take a thing from Scientology. It says, whatever is true for you is what's true for you. So read History of Man. And if that's true for you, become a Scientologist, say goodbye to your family. Okay. Say goodbye to all your savings and retirement and the mortgage to your house. Okay. Because again, if you can believe that bullshit, you deserve to be in it. Especially since you haven't been hypnotized by anything except reading the fucking book.
I was going to
say, and if you read the book and you
easy.
laugh hysterically out loud and say, this is the most ridiculous thing in the world, then I don't have to ever worry about you getting involved.
If only, yeah, I mean,
and give the book to your friends who, no, don't read Dianetics, read History of Man.
Yeah. Good point, man.
Because it's ridiculous. It's an hallucinatory trip. And as you said, I never knew what you just said. It was Nib's trip.
Yeah, it was. You can actually look that up and verify that. Brian, what you said.
I'm going to look it up. I think it's hysterical.
Yeah. Oh, definitely look into Nibs, man. He's a fascinating character. He has a lot of shit to talk, a lot of truth to talk about his father.
Well, his grandson, Jamie, Jamie was going to be the host on the show,
television show that you were going to be on.
That A&E was going to do. Because there was a whole show, and again, more about that in the book, folks. So read
Brian
the book,
covers
please,
every single thing that we talked. He barely talked about. I mean, we covered a lot, Brian, and that's pretty much the gist of his story. But there's so much more. God, there's a lot more. But if you want to come back again, Brian, we can do a second. I'll leave it up to you, man. But yeah,
love to, Doug.
Oh well, thank you. You're not obligated to, man. I'm just.
I want to hear more, but I'll come back on one agreement. I want to
We
hear
smoke weed- we
more
smoke weed together?
about your personal experiences.
Sure,
I
man.
want to
You
hear
can-
more
you
about
can
your
interview
personal
me. We can
experiences.
reverse it.
And yeah, because I really think
Sure, man.
it's important to understand that when somebody gets involved at such a young age, like my daughter was, because her mother was still involved even when I left, and kept her involved and kept her in the Delphi schools. So she went to those to the Scientology schools growing up. And again, I didn't know, I didn't have the perspective of how horrible that is. But even in their schools, they train you to be a statistic.
Oh,
and
full
I
on,
didn't
dude.
really that loss of empathy. I didn't get it until all of this, and so I can almost understand her lack of empathy for me because she was trained that way.
That's
her whole
Brian,
life.
really try not to take that all onto you totally, because it really is that way. I can tell you from personal experience. Even though I resisted it, the indoctrination was going in, and that when you're second generation, bro, it's not your fault. It really isn't. That's the indoctrination that you get. So there's nothing you could do about it. And you're lucky, by the way, that it happened to you later, because it was a huge shock when my heart opened, dude, when I woke up, and it hurt so bad. And the amount of emotional content that came rushing back in over 10 years, I never cried more in my life. I wanted to suicide myself. Bro, all that suppressed emotion that Scientology blocks you off from that you need to deal with. It's like a one season world. It's like a spiritual bypass. It's like, it's all about being happy and the right thing. You never actually acknowledge what's really happening. So bro, growing up in that, and your daughter, the empathy's there. It's just shut down. And I really hope, Brian, that you do get reunited and that you could help her and your loved ones through that, the empathy coming back and the heart opening up again. Because bro, when you've been in it like her and me, it really is quite an experience. I hope that happens.
Yeah, I know how to open the heart, so that's cool. Yeah, maybe we'll
she'll
even
be
talk
fine
about
if
some
she could
interesting.
just get to, totally, man. Hey, Brian, she might even
for sure, man.
She has to make the first. It has to happen in her, as they would say in Scientology, universe, and then you can take it from there. If she ever, if that first, doubt creeps in, and as you know, sometimes it can take a really long time. I think there's probably a good chance just because of her age and stuff, man. Like I said, my parents. It would be such a long road back for them, Brian, that at the best thing that can happen, in my opinion, is they might creep away and still hold onto the tech or go into the radar at the very, best. They're probably going to remain.
Hey, I'd be happy with that. Bro, let me tell you.
I mean, it's so, we'll talk, dude, we got to do another interview because we have high ARC, Brian, and we could talk about a lot of these concepts, but let's end off this one here. And then we'll set up another one. Like I said, we'll talk.
Sounds great, Doug. It's been such a pleasure.
Brian,
thank you so much,
man. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. I love meeting you. But Brian, before you go, can you please tell people, and I'm going to leave these in the link, all these things that we talk about, these links will be in the description box. Could you tell people where they can get your book? Where they can, I'm going to leave those incredible whiteboard videos in there. So I'll take care of that. And any other links, anything at all you want to say where they can find you.
Right. I think the best thing is to go to Amazon.com and look at Relentless, Rescuing My Daughter from Scientology. Or it's also in my own personal website, BrianSheenPublications.com. And we've dedicated a special page to the book and other books that I've written about other areas of the study and work I've done over the last 40 years since leaving Scientology. And understand that there are some really wonderful, excellent know-how and knowledge out there in neuroscience and epigenetics that is available to people if they're willing to read and experiment with different things. And remember, do something for yourself, whatever you're doing, and don't let the talk that we gave of this evil cult with this deranged leader take you away from the idea of checking into something that interests you, and just learn from these lessons, not to give up your power, but don't let it prevent you from checking things out because of one thing that's a bad experience. There are many things that can be wonderful experiences, and then that can give you a sense of freedom. So I want to give you that hope, you know, and the simple thing of just learning how to meditate is a wonderful thing, and doing yoga, I think, is a wonderful thing. But again, it's a wonderful thing as long as you don't get fucked up with some crazy guru that wants to control your life. Okay. Right. It's one thing to read a book and use it to help yourself. It's another thing to sit there and dedicate your life to it because someone has hypnotized you and taken control of you. So always be aware of that. And thank you to Doug for bringing this out and dedicating so much of his time and energy. It inspires me to see his passion, knowing what he's been through and knowing the growth he's going through in his life. It's such a beautiful thing. And I just applaud you, Doug, and thank you for your diligence and commitment to putting on these podcasts and for having me on. And I do look forward to coming on again with you sometime.
Brian, you're such a cool guy, man. Thank you.
Jericho, Colombia, man.
I do not speak. I do not speak.
It means I enjoyed meeting you. Encantado. It was a joy to meet you, sir.
It's very, very mutual, man. You're a really cool guy, Brian. I wish you well, my friend. That was a really, really mind-blowing talk. You have a way of speaking that brings back a lot of memories. So I think I need an auditing session, Brian. I'm going to end off here, and I'm going to go jump on the cans and run some past lives, if you don't mind.
And you saying that now, I want to go jump on the can too. I got to take a crap. Yeah.
The name of this solar system is Space Station 33. 33. 33. 33. 33. 33. Space Station 33.
And now here is L. Ron Hubbard.
Now, where you take pre-clear after pre-clear after pre-clear after pre-clear, you put them on E-meters, you try to run them, you try to do this, you try to do that, straight on.